Lewis Hamilton's switch to Ferrari this year was a box office move for driver, team and Formula 1 itself, with Hamilton's sights clear set on capturing that elusive 8th World Championship. But the reality has turned out to be very different, with results harder to achieve than anyone expected. A new low was reached just before F1's summer break, with Hamilton labelling his performance at the Hungarian Grand Prix as useless, suggesting Ferrari may even need a driver change. That's not going to happen anytime soon, but Ferrari has revealed an interesting reason as to why things have been so tough. So to better understand why Hamilton is struggling, what he and Ferrari plan to do to fix it, the race sat down with team boss Fred Vasseur, and he told us that both he and Hamilton simply underestimated how difficult it was going to be for him to change teams. After 18 years of working with Mercedes at both McLaren and its works team, Vasseur confessed, "We were stupidly expecting that he will have everything under control." That's led to a lengthy period of getting accustomed to life in a totally different environment, as well as Ferrari needing to hone in on small details that it feels can help unlock bigger results. So let's take a look at what Vasseur suspects has happened and what is being done to try to turn things around. It's been a pretty bumpy ride over the first half of the 25 season for Hamilton and Ferrari. Yes, there's been some highlights, like that sprint race victory in China, but it's fair to say that results have not lived up to expectations. Hamilton has yet to finish on the podium in a main Grand Prix, with his best result being 4th, which is achieved 3 times in Britain, Austria and Imola. His best qualifying result is also 4th place, which he managed in Austria and also Monaco, before being handed a 3-place grid penalty there for impeding Max Verstappen in Q1. Looking at the qualifying gaps between himself and teammate Charles Leclerc, the start of the campaign was more challenging, with the gap between them, in percentage terms, being at its biggest in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. However, things had appeared to be getting better, and the recent run of Canada, Spain, Austria and Britain offered signs of progress. In fact, cumulatively across those 4 races, Hamilton was the fastest Ferrari driver over a single lap. But the narrative has shifted dramatically since, and 2 bruising weekends in Belgium and Hungary served to completely change perceptions. In Belgium, things were overshadowed by mistakes in qualifying, a spin in sprint qualifying, and then breaking track limits in the main session, which left Hamilton too far down the grid to stage a recovery. Then in Hungary, a disappointing lap in Q2 meant Hamilton failed to make it through to the final shootout, as he was forced to see Leclerc go on to take pole position. That takes us back to Hamilton labelling himself as useless, and that suggestion Ferrari needs a new driver. It's not something Vasseur is considering though, as he's convinced there's 2 very understandable explanations for Hamilton's difficulties. There are 2 factors at play here according to Vasseur. The first is that Ferrari is a completely new environment in a different country, so Hamilton's switch was always going to be greater than if he had moved to another British team after so long at Mercedes. As Vasseur said, culturally speaking, there's a bigger difference between Ferrari and Mercedes than between Mercedes and McLaren. But the second factor that's perhaps more important is that, according to Vasseur, Hamilton has spent his entire F1 career working in pretty much the same way. He had become synonymous with Mercedes and had been part of its ecosystem with F1 for nearly 2 decades, starting with McLaren from 2007 and then later with its works team from 2013, where he went on to enjoy its greatest successes. Vasseur said, "McLaren was Mercedes, and then he moved to Mercedes, an English team, same engine guys, the same culture, and so on." To put Hamilton's career in context, even just the Mercedes spell of 12 years is the longest ever team-driver partnership in F1. Michael Schumacher enjoyed 11 years at Ferrari from 1996 to 2006, while Max Verstappen is currently in his 10th season with Red Bull, having joined from Toro Rosso in 2016. Such longevity is quite rare in F1. If we go back over Ferrari's history of recent recruitments, Hamilton is the exception in terms of having been in one place for so long prior to his arrival. Carlos Sainz arrived in 2021, having regularly swapped teams beforehand. He was coming off 2 years at McLaren, which had followed 2 years at Renault and then 3 seasons at Toro Rosso. Charles Leclerc was signed by Ferrari for 2019 after just 1 rookie campaign with Sauber. His teammate at the time, Sebastian Vettel, had had 6 years with Red Bull before he joined Ferrari in 2015. Drivers that move teams regularly are much more used to adapting their working practices, understanding team dynamics and getting used to change than someone like Hamilton, who was experiencing such a shift for the very first time. As Vasseur explained about Hamilton, he's not the guy who changed a team every 2 years. It was pointed out that Sainz had been at Toro Rosso, Renault, McLaren, Ferrari and Williams, all within 8 seasons. Sainz is very used to changing teams, and even he's had his difficulties adjusting to life at Williams. So for his replacement Hamilton, the task was even greater, having never faced such a big adaptation challenge. While the unexpected difficulties of Hamilton changing teams made life difficult at the beginning, Vasseur thinks a lot of progress has been made after the first 4 or 5 races. By Canada, Vasseur felt that Hamilton has started to find his groove and indeed that seemed to be true with a decent pace shown in Spain, Austria and Britain. But setbacks in Belgium and Hungary have highlighted how small details, like a brake snatching at the wrong point or tyres falling out of the operating window, can have a big impact. In Hungary, for example, had he found just a small time gain, then there's every chance he could have unlocked the pace step that Leclerc managed, and then his weekend would have looked entirely different. Vasseur says there's not been one glaring issue that has stood out, but that is instead a collection of small, interconnected details. But together, all these add up to make a difference on the stopwatch.
The Porsche 956 is one of the most successful sports cars of all time, and thanks to Rec Watches, a unique timepiece now tells one of the car's greatest stories. Knowing the factory team would always have the advantage, privateer Richard Lloyd redesigned the 956, creating the legendary 956-106B with a stiffer aluminium honeycomb tub and reworked aero. Given the stamper approval by Porsche, it beat the factory cars in the 1985 Le Mans 24 Hours. The aluminium clutch disc from the 956-106B now forms the 30-minute counter in Rec Watch's remarkable new creation. With a honeycomb dial reflecting the car's tub, a customised rotor in homage to the BBS wheels used on the car, and a marker at the 1986 Le Mans speed record of 374 km/h, this watch is full of unique detail. 508 pieces in the black Richard Lloyd colours and 448 pieces in the liquid moly style with red and blue accents are available. Follow the first link in the description to acquire this unique timepiece and use our special code to get 10% off, valid during August 2025.
The struggles faced this year have inevitably been hard to deal with, and some of the disappointments appear to have hit especially hard. But despite some eye-grabbing comments from Hamilton, like his useless admission in Hungary, Vasseur claims he's not worried. He well knows what makes Hamilton click, and sees such criticisms as being those of someone who is ultra-demanding of both themselves and the team around them. In fact, Vasseur sees this as a strength, not a flaw. Being so demanding, according to Vasseur, is the very trait that has helped Hamilton achieve such great success in F1. He said that he's like this because he wants to get the maximum from everybody around him, as well as himself. It was something that we also saw in his Mercedes times too, as many will remember that at last year's Qatar Grand Prix, after difficult qualifying, Hamilton was equally self-critical. He told the media there that he felt he was not fast anymore, something that he later rolled back on. Vasseur says that teams are more than happy to work with drivers who are so demanding of everything they do like Hamilton, as long as they push themselves just as hard. He cites an example of how Nico Hülkenberg was when he worked with him at his former ART junior team in F3 in 2008. Vasseur called Hülkenberg mega demanding with all the team in F3, but he says the mechanics accepted it because he was always spotted as being the first one at the track in the morning for a jog at 6:30 AM. Vasseur says there is no other option for Ferrari and Hamilton than to keep calm and work through all these small elements that are making the difference. And while Ferrari is reluctant to go into the details of everything that Hamilton's adjusting to, Vasseur does say that, point by point, we are fixing the issues. One example of improvements that has been made to make Hamilton feel more at home is an adjustment that Ferrari made of its braking system this year. With the Brembo brakes that Hamilton has switched to this year having a different characteristic from the carbon industry spec they'd got used to before, there was a challenge in readjusting things, but from Spa, revisions to components have delivered a braking characteristic that delivers more of the initial bite that Hamilton so likes. Hamilton's integration at Ferrari is also being aided by familiar faces from his Mercedes past, like technical chief Loic Serra, deputy team principal Jerome D'Ambrosio, and new performance engineer Luca Diella. These individuals help provide a bridge between Hamilton's past and present and can help identify areas where improvements can be made or offer context on where and why things are different from before. For Vasseur, the message is clear. Yes, it's been a harder than expected start to life together for Hamilton and Ferrari, but they are slowly getting to where they need to be. And with F1's all-new cars arriving in 2026, where clever drivers like Hamilton may have an advantage in being able to nail what's needed to exploit energy management, there is every opportunity for a proper reset. And it's this prospect that could help the Hamilton-Ferrari partnership finally hit the heights that were intended from the off.